I never believed in fate until that Saturday morning in Torrance's dusty antique market. My fingers had just closed around the handle of an exquisite 1,940 seconds diplomatic briefcase when another hand landed on top of mine. The leather was worn smooth, embassy seals still faintly visible beneath years of careful handling. I looked up into the most striking blue eyes I'd ever seen. I saw it first. Her voice carried authority, crisp and uncompromising. The woman was stunning in a way that made my breath catch. Blonde hair swept back in perfect waves, tailored coat that screamed expensive, and an icy composure that somehow made her more intriguing. Actually, I was here first. I held my ground, though my heart hammered against my ribs. Her smile was razor sharp. "Are you always this stubborn? Are you always this entitled?" We stared at each other for a long moment. The vendor watched nervously as tension crackled between us like a live wire. "Fine," she said finally. 50-50 split. We'll see who really deserves it." I released the briefcase, confused. "What do you mean?" But she was already walking away, leaving me with nothing but the scent of expensive perfume, and a business card that read, K. Robinson, Diplomatic Services. Monday morning arrived with its usual chaos of ringing phones and urgent emails. My promotion to senior associate meant longer hours and higher stakes, but I thrived on the pressure. International expansion was my specialty, and today's client meeting would determine whether our firm landed the biggest contract of the year. I straightened my blazer and grabbed my files, rushing toward conference room B where the diplomatic liaison was scheduled to arrive any moment. The door swung open, just as I reached for the handle. Blue eyes met mine across the threshold. "Well," said the blonde woman from the antique market, extending her hand with professional precision. "I'm Kylie Robinson, diplomatic attaché for the Henderson International Project." My mouth went dry. Cassandra Campbell, senior associate. Her handshake lingered a fraction too long. Small world. The meeting was a battlefield disguised as professional courtesy. Every suggestion I made, Kylie countered with surgical precision. Her diplomatic experience versus my aggressive timeline. Her cautious approach versus my ambitious projections. "Your proposal lacks cultural sensitivity," she said, blue eyes never leaving mine. "Your timeline lacks any sense of urgency," I shot back. Our colleagues shifted uncomfortably, as the temperature in the room seemed to rise with each exchange. But something electric passed between us with every pointed question, every challenged assumption. "Perhaps we should schedule a follow-up," suggested our project manager, clearly eager to escape the tension. "Excellent idea," Kylie said smoothly. "Miss Campbell and I have much to discuss." After everyone filed out, we sat alone in the suddenly quiet conference room. The afternoon sun slanted through blinds, casting shadows across her face. "That briefcase?" I said finally. "What did you mean about seeing who deserves it?" Her composed mask slipped slightly. "Sometimes the most valuable things come to those brave enough to fight for them." The way she said it made me wonder if we were still talking about antiques. 3 weeks of professional warfare had left us both exhausted and oddly exhilarated. Our project meetings became intellectual duels, where every policy debate carried undertones neither of us dared acknowledge. Tonight was different. The office building stood nearly empty at 9 p.m., fluorescent lights humming overhead as we spread documents across the mahogany conference table. "The Romanian ministry won't accept these terms," Kylie said, her usually perfect composure showing cracks of fatigue. "They will if we frame it correctly." I leaned forward, close enough to catch her subtle perfume. "You're thinking like a diplomat. Think like a strategist." For the first time since we'd met, her mask slipped completely. "You have no idea what it's like navigating international waters where one wrong word can destroy careers." Something raw in her voice made me pause. "Tell me." She looked at me for a long moment, then began talking about embassy life, about being the only woman in rooms full of men who questioned her every decision, about hiding parts of herself behind professional armor because vulnerability meant weakness in her world. "I've never told anyone that," she whispered. "Your secret's safe." The air between us shifted, became charged with possibility. 2 days later, she called my direct line. "There's a reception Friday night. Diplomatic community, potential clients for your firm." "Business?" A pause. "Of course. What else would it be?" The embassy ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and designer gowns. Kylie moved through the crowd like she owned the room, introducing me to ambassadors and trade ministers with practiced ease. But I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking, her gaze lingering on my lips when I laughed at some dignitary's joke. "You clean up well," she murmured during a quiet moment by the windows. "You sound surprised." "Nothing about you surprises me anymore, Cassandra." The way she said my name sent heat spiraling through my chest. Every conversation we had that night walked the razor's edge between professional and personal. Every shared glance loaded with unspoken meaning. The reception ended near midnight. Rain had started while we were inside, turning the city streets slick and shining. We stood under the embassy portico, neither wanting to break the spell. "Can I give you a ride?" she asked. "I should call a cab." "Don't be ridiculous. My car's right here." But the doorman was already flagging down a taxi, and Kylie slid in beside me before I could protest. The back seat felt impossibly small with her so close, the driver's classical music creating an intimate bubble around us. "Thank you," I said, "for tonight. Those connections could change everything for my career." She turned to face me in the darkened car. "I didn't do it for your career." The city lights blurred past us as we stared at each other. Years of careful control, of hiding behind professional facades, suddenly felt exhausting. "Kylie." Her hand found mine in the darkness between us. "I know we shouldn't. We can't. I know." But when she leaned toward me, all logic evaporated. Her lips met mine with desperate hunger, as if we'd been drowning and finally found air. The kiss tasted like champagne and forbidden possibilities, soft and fierce and everything I'd imagined during those charged moments across conference tables. The taxi slowed to a stop outside my building, reality crashing back around us. We broke apart, both breathing hard. "This complicates everything," I whispered. Her thumb traced my cheek. "Everything worthwhile does." Monday morning felt different. Every glance across the office carried weight now. Every accidental brush of fingers when passing documents sent electricity through my system. Kylie maintained her professional composure perfectly, but I caught the slight softening around her eyes when she looked at me. During our project update meeting, she sat across from me at the conference table, her voice steady as she discussed trade regulations. But when she handed me a report, our fingers lingered together just long enough for my pulse to stutter. "Miss Campbell, you seem distracted today," commented our project manager. "Just focused on the details," I replied, forcing myself to look away from Kylie's knowing smile. After the meeting, Leo cornered me by the coffee machine. My best friend had a nose for secrets, and his expression told me I wasn't hiding things as well as I'd hoped. "What's going on with you and the Ice Queen?" "Nothing. We're working together, that's it." "Right, and I'm the Pope." He stirred his coffee thoughtfully. "Just be careful, Cass. Office relationships are dangerous, and she's not exactly approachable." If only he knew how approachable she could be. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Dinner tomorrow? Business discussion. Private restaurant on Catalina Avenue. K." I stared at the message for 10 minutes before responding. What kind of business? The kind that requires discretion. The restaurant was tucked away in a residential neighborhood, dimly lit and intimate. Kylie had already secured a corner booth, her blonde hair catching candlelight as she studied the wine menu. She'd traded her usual diplomatic armor for a simple black dress that made my breath catch. "This doesn't look very businesslike," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Appearances can be deceiving. Her blue eyes held mine steadily. "We need to discuss project parameters without office distractions." But conversation flowed beyond work within minutes. She told me about growing up as a diplomat's daughter, constantly moving, never belonging anywhere. I shared my own story of fighting for recognition in male-dominated boardrooms, of building walls to protect ambitions that felt too big for my small-town origins. "You're not what I expected," she said over dessert. "What did you expect?" "Someone less real." The drive to her apartment felt inevitable, though neither of us spoke about the decision. Her building was elegant like everything else about her, all marble and soft lighting. The elevator ride to the 20th floor stretched endlessly, tension crackling between us. Her apartment overlooked the ocean, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing moonlight dancing on dark water, but I barely noticed the view because she was standing so close I could feel her warmth. We shouldn't do this, I whispered. I know. Her hand touched my cheek, thumb tracing my lower lip. Tell me to stop. Instead, I kissed her. This time there was no taxi driver, no public space to restrain us. Her mouth opened under mine, and years of careful control shattered completely. She pressed me back against the cool glass of the window, her body warm and urgent against mine. We moved to her bedroom in a blur of breathless kisses and fumbling with buttons. Her skin was pale silk in the moonlight, and when she whispered my name like a prayer, it sounded like coming home. Everything else faded away except the taste of her lips and the way she trembled under my touch. We discovered each other slowly, carefully, as if we were precious things that might break. Afterward, we lay tangled in her sheets, my head on her chest, listening to her heartbeat slow. The city sparkled below us through the bedroom windows, but this moment felt separate from everything else, existing in its own perfect bubble. This changes everything, I said quietly. Her fingers combed through my hair. I know. Your career, mine. I know. She tilted my chin up to meet her eyes. But I can't pretend this didn't happen. Can't pretend I don't want it to happen again. I kissed her collarbone, tasting salt and possibility. Then we'll figure it out. But even as I said the words, I wondered how we'd navigate the minefield we'd just created. Dawn streamed through Kylie's apartment windows as reality settled around us like a cold blanket. She sat at the edge of the bed, already pulling on her robe, professional mask sliding back into place. We need rules, she said without looking at me. I wrapped the sheet around myself, suddenly feeling exposed. What kind of rules? No contact during office hours unless absolutely necessary. No lingering glances, no private meetings without legitimate business reasons. Her voice was steady, diplomatic. My position requires security clearance reviews. Any hint of personal compromise could end my career. And mine could end if the partners think I'm sleeping my way through client relationships. We stared at each other across the growing distance, both understanding the impossible situation we'd created. So, what are we doing here, Kylie? She finally met my eyes. I don't know, but I can't walk away. Neither could I. 3 weeks into our secret arrangement, paranoia became my constant companion. Shane Campbell, Kylie's supervisor, began showing up at our project meetings unannounced. His gray eyes missed nothing, tracking every interaction between us with unsettling intensity. The diplomatic corps takes security very seriously, he mentioned casually after one meeting. Personal relationships can create vulnerabilities. The way he said it made my skin crawl. Of course, Kylie replied smoothly. Professional boundaries are essential. But that night, she called from a secure line. He's watching me. Shane never trusted my judgment, but now he's looking for reasons to question my assignments. Maybe we should cool things off. Is that what you want? The silence stretched between us, loaded with everything we couldn't say over the phone. No, I whispered. Then we get smarter. We developed an elaborate system of communication. Work emails became coded messages where quarterly projections meant I miss you and schedule adjustments meant can you meet tonight. Our legitimate project collaboration provided perfect cover for stolen moments between meetings. In public, we were consummate professionals. In private, the intensity only grew stronger because of the secrecy. Every touch felt electric because it was forbidden. Every kiss carried the weight of everything we risked. She started leaving small things in my apartment. A coffee mug, a book of poetry, a silk scarf that smelled like her perfume. I did the same at her place, marking territory in the only way we could. This is insane, I told her one evening as we lay in her bed. City lights painting patterns on our skin. We're like teenagers sneaking around. Teenagers don't have this much to lose. Her fingers traced lazy circles on my shoulder, and I wanted to memorize the feeling before reality intruded again. But reality had a way of finding us. Leo grew more suspicious with each passing day, commenting on my frequent late nights and mysterious phone calls. I deflected his questions, but his protective instincts were sharpening. During lunch, he cornered me. You're different lately, distracted but happy, like you're keeping some delicious secret. I'm focused on work. Bull. I've known you for 5 years. This isn't about work. He leaned forward conspiratorially. It's the diplomat, isn't it? My poker face must have slipped because his eyes widened. Holy shit, Cass. You're sleeping with Kylie Robinson? Keep your voice down. She's gorgeous, I'll give you that, but damn risky. Office relationships are career suicide, especially with someone from another organization. It's complicated. It always is. Just promise me you know what you're doing. I wished I could make that promise. That weekend, Kylie invited me to her place for what she called document review. But when I arrived, she'd prepared dinner instead. Real food, not takeout, candles on the table. What's this? An attempt at normal. She looked vulnerable suddenly, uncertain. I thought maybe we could pretend, just for tonight, that we're regular people having a regular relationship. The domesticity felt dangerous and wonderful. We cooked together, argued about wine choices, laughed at stories from our respective hells of professional advancement. For a few hours, the secrecy and paranoia faded away. But when she walked me to the door later, reality crashed back. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, she whispered against my lips. Which part? All of it. Being with you, hiding it, knowing it could destroy everything I've worked for. I kissed her then, pouring all my own fears and hopes into the connection between us. Whatever happened next, we were in this together now. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, innocent as a snake. Mandatory Employee Wellness Assessment, Corporate Psychology Initiative. I stared at the screen, coffee growing cold in my hands. Shit, I muttered. The company had hired some experimental psychology firm to evaluate team dynamics and reduce workplace stress. Every employee would undergo individual assessment, including something called enhanced cognitive evaluation. I dialed Kylie's secure number immediately. This is bad, I said when she answered. How bad? Corporate psychology evaluation. They're going to dig into everyone's heads looking for performance optimization opportunities. Silence stretched between us before she spoke. When? Next week. It's mandatory. We'll figure it out. Just be careful what you reveal. But I could hear the fear beneath her composed tone. The psychology office felt more like a spa than a clinical setting. Doctor? Sarah Martinez greeted me with a warm smile and herbal tea, explaining the process would involve traditional evaluation, followed by experimental hypnotic regression designed to access subconscious productivity barriers. Don't worry, she assured me. Everything discussed here remains strictly confidential. We're only looking for patterns that might improve workplace satisfaction. The first hour involved standard questions about stress levels and career goals, easy enough to navigate. Then came the hypnosis. Just relax and let your mind drift, Dr. Martinez said softly. We're going to explore some early formative experiences that might influence your professional relationships. Her voice grew distant as consciousness shifted, reality becoming fluid and strange. Suddenly I was 12 years old again, hiding in my bedroom while my parents fought downstairs about my tomboy phase and whether it was normal for girls to show no interest in boys. Tell me about your first crush, Dr. Martinez's voice floated through the memory. Jenny Morrison, I heard myself saying. She had red hair and freckles. I wanted to hold her hand during recess. The session continued, pulling up buried memories of adolescent confusion, of hiding feelings that didn't fit expectations, of learning to present an acceptable version of myself while keeping the truth locked away. When I surfaced from the hypnotic state, Dr. Martinez was scribbling notes furiously. Very interesting responses, she murmured. You show patterns of compartmentalization that could impact workplace authenticity. My blood ran cold. What does that mean? Oh, nothing concerning. Just personality traits that might benefit from integration work. But her notes could destroy everything if they fell into wrong hands. That evening, I called Kylie from my apartment, pacing like a caged animal. They know, I said without preamble. Know what? Not about us specifically, but about me. The hypnosis pulled up things I've kept buried for years. My attraction to women, hiding my sexuality, all of it. Damn it, Cassandra. Those sessions are supposedly confidential, but if anyone accesses those records, it gets worse. I saw the appointment schedule. You're scheduled for Thursday. The silence stretched endlessly before she spoke. I can't do it. My security clearance requires psychological stability reports. Any indication of personal complications could trigger a full investigation. Then, don't go. Missing a mandatory assessment would be even more suspicious. We were trapped. Wednesday night, she showed up at my door without calling first, something she'd never done. Her usual composure was cracking around the edges. "I've been thinking about tomorrow," she said, settling onto my couch with unusual stiffness. "And? What if I told them the truth?" I stared at her. "About us?" "About everything. My attraction to women, my struggle with authenticity in diplomatic circles, the fact that I'm tired of hiding." Her voice grew stronger. "What if I just stopped lying? Your career would be over, maybe. Or maybe it would finally begin." The vulnerability in her admission broke something open in my chest. This woman, who armored herself in professional perfection, was ready to risk everything for honesty. "Kylie," I moved closer, taking her hands. "You don't have to do this." "Don't I?" Her blue eyes met mine with fierce determination. "I've spent my entire adult life presenting a version of myself that fits expectations. I'm exhausted." That night we held each other with desperate intensity, knowing tomorrow might change everything. Her skin was warm against mine as we made love with a tenderness that felt like goodbye. In the darkness afterward, she traced patterns on my shoulder, while I listened to her breathing slow. "Whatever happens tomorrow," she whispered, "I want you to know this has been the most real thing in my life." I kissed her neck, tasting salt and fear and possibility. Mine too. Thursday morning arrived too soon. I couldn't concentrate on work, checking my phone obsessively for updates. Every hour that passed without word from Kylie felt like an eternity. Finally, at 4 p.m., she called. "It's done," she said simply. "What happened?" I told her everything. About hiding my sexuality, about the emotional cost of professional facades, about feeling disconnected from my authentic self. She paused. "I didn't mention you specifically, but I was honest about everything else." "And?" Dr. Martinez was surprisingly supportive. Said authenticity integration could actually improve my professional effectiveness. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by new anxiety. If both our sessions contained similar revelations, patterns might emerge that could expose our connection. We were walking an even thinner line now, but somehow it felt like progress. 2 weeks after the psychology sessions, paranoia felt like my second skin. Every meeting, every casual conversation in the hallway carried the weight of potential exposure. But it wasn't just my imagination anymore. Leah Robinson had started showing up everywhere. The junior diplomat was Shane Campbell's protege, all ambition and sharp eyes, and she'd begun asking pointed questions about Kylie's frequent consultations with our firm. "Seems unusual for a senior attaché to spend so much time on routine trade negotiations," Leah mentioned during a chance encounter at the embassy coffee shop. "International expansion is complex," I replied carefully. "Multiple stakeholders require extensive coordination." Her smile was razor thin. "Of course. Though I notice Miss Robinson requests you specifically for all communications." The comment felt like a warning shot. That evening, I called Kylie from a secure line. "We have a problem." "Leah? You know?" "She's been documenting my schedule, asking questions about project necessity. Shane's using her as his eyes and ears. What do we do?" "Be more careful. And hope she doesn't find anything concrete." But Leo found me first. Friday afternoon, he cornered me in the empty break room, his expression serious. "I know about you and the diplomat," he said without preamble. My blood turned to ice. "What are you talking about?" "Come on, Cass. I've watched you for 2 months. The secret phone calls, the way you light up when she's mentioned, staying late for project work that somehow never generates paperwork." I studied his face, trying to gauge how much he actually knew versus suspected. "It's not what you think. Really. Because what I think is that you're sleeping with Kylie Robinson, and it's the best thing that's happened to you in years." The accuracy of his assessment knocked the wind out of me. "Leo, look, I'm not judging. She's gorgeous and brilliant, and you deserve happiness. But this situation is dangerous as hell." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "There are rumors flying in diplomatic circles about security concerns in her office. People are looking for reasons to question her loyalty." "What kind of rumors?" "The kind that end careers. Be careful, Cass. Both of you." His warning echoed in my mind all weekend. Sunday evening, Kylie and I met at a small restaurant across town, far from our usual haunts. The secrecy that once felt thrilling now felt suffocating. "We need to talk," she said, barely touching her wine. About Leah? About everything. The investigation, the rumors, the pressure. She looked exhausted. Shane called me into his office yesterday. Asked direct questions about my relationship with your consulting firm. What did you tell him? The truth. That we're working together professionally. Her blue eyes met mine, but he's not buying it. The weight of our impossible situation pressed down like a physical force. Every stolen moment together now carried the risk of destroying both our careers. Maybe we should stop, I said quietly. Take a break until things calm down. Is that what you want? No. But I don't want to destroy your life either. She reached across the table, fingers brushing mine for just a moment before pulling back. Meeting you changed everything for me, Cassandra. I can't go back to pretending. That night, we broke every rule we'd established. Instead of going to her apartment or mine, we checked into a small hotel on the outskirts of town, desperate for neutral territory where we could drop our guards completely. The room was simple but clean, nothing like the luxury of her place or the familiarity of mine. But when she pulled me close, none of that mattered. We made love with desperate intensity, as if we were running out of time. Her hands mapped my body like she was memorizing every curve and hollow. I lost myself in the taste of her skin, the way she whispered my name like a prayer. We moved together with perfect synchronization, hearts beating in rhythm, the rest of the world disappearing beyond these walls. Afterward, we lay tangled in unfamiliar sheets, my head on her chest, listening to traffic pass outside. I love you, she said suddenly, the words hanging in the air between us like a confession. I lifted my head to look at her, seeing vulnerability in her blue eyes that she'd never shown before. I love you too. It was the first time either of us had said it, and the admission felt like stepping off a cliff into unknown territory. Monday morning brought fresh hell. Leah Robinson was waiting in our lobby when I arrived for work, her smile predatory. Miss Campbell, I was hoping we could chat about project coordination protocols. We found an empty conference room, and she spread several documents across the table with theatrical precision. I've been reviewing communication patterns between our offices, she said. Interesting frequency of contact for what should be routine trade discussions. The papers showed call logs, meeting schedules, even email timestamps. She'd built a circumstantial case that looked damning when viewed as a whole. Thoroughness is important in international negotiations, I replied carefully. Absolutely. Though some might question whether this level of personal attention serves purely professional purposes. There it was. The accusation wrapped in diplomatic language. Are you suggesting something inappropriate, Ms. Robinson? I'm suggesting that appearances matter in our respective fields. Perception becomes reality very quickly. I understood the threat perfectly. She might not have concrete proof, but she had suspicions and the determination to pursue them. That evening, I warned Kylie about the conversation. She's building a case, I said. Not enough for formal accusations yet, but close. Then we get smarter, or we get caught. There's a third option. Which is? We fight back. The call came at 6 a.m. on a Monday. Kylie's voice was tight with controlled panic. They filed a formal inquiry. Shane and Leah presented evidence of security concerns related to my assignment. I sat up in bed, instantly awake. What kind of evidence? Circumstantial but damaging. Meeting frequencies, communication patterns, claims that I've compromised diplomatic protocols for personal interests. Do they know about us specifically? Not yet. But a formal investigation means they'll dig deeper. Phone records, surveillance, interviews with everyone we've worked with. This was it. The crisis we'd feared since that first kiss in the taxi. Everything we'd built, both professionally and personally, hung in the balance. By noon, the diplomatic rumor mill was working overtime. Whispers followed me through embassy hallways about security breaches and inappropriate relationships. Kylie's professional reputation was being dissected by people who'd never questioned her competence before. The hearing was scheduled for Thursday. 3 days to prepare for the end of everything. I won't let you go down alone, I told her Tuesday evening over secure phone. You don't have a choice. This isn't your fight. Like hell it isn't. They're questioning your integrity based on our professional relationship. If anyone should testify about your conduct, it's me. Cassandra, no. Testifying will expose you to the same scrutiny. Your career could be destroyed too. Maybe it's time to stop hiding. The words surprised me as much as they did her. But as I said them, I realized I meant it. Living in constant fear of discovery was exhausting, always calculating every glance, every word, every moment of connection we shared. Wednesday night, I worked until dawn preparing testimony that would defend Kylie's professional conduct without exposing our personal relationship. It was like performing surgery with a chainsaw, requiring surgical precision that might prove impossible under pressure. Thursday arrived gray and cold, Pacific winds whipping through Torrance as if the weather reflected our mood. The diplomatic review board convened in a sterile conference room that smelled of fear and bureaucratic power. Shane Campbell presented his case with methodical precision, meeting frequencies that exceeded normal protocols, communication patterns suggesting personal rather than professional interest, claims that Kylie had prioritized consulting firm relationships over broader diplomatic objectives. The evidence suggests compromised judgment, he concluded, his gray eyes never leaving Kylie's face. Personal entanglements that create security vulnerabilities. Leah Robinson followed with supporting testimony, her young face earnest as she described concerning patterns of behavior and questionable priorities. She'd done her homework, building circumstantial case that looked compelling when presented without context. Then, it was my turn. I stood at the witness table looking at 5 board members who would determine Kylie's professional fate. Her blue eyes met mine across the room, and I saw trust there despite everything at stake. Ms. Robinson has conducted herself with exemplary professionalism throughout our collaboration, I began. Her expertise in international trade protocols has been invaluable to our firm's expansion efforts. Yet, you've had unusual frequency of contact, interrupted one board member. International expansion is complex work requiring extensive coordination. Ms. Robinson's thoroughness and attention to detail have prevented numerous potential complications. For 30 minutes, I walked the tightrope between truth and necessary lies. Yes, we'd met frequently. Yes, we'd developed effective working relationship. No, there was no evidence of compromised security or inappropriate conduct. Has your professional relationship involved any personal elements? Asked another board member. The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. One word could destroy us both. But looking at Kylie's face, I realized some truths were worth the risk. Ms. Robinson has become someone I respect deeply, I said carefully. Her intelligence, integrity, and dedication to her work are remarkable. If that constitutes personal regard, then yes, I regard her highly. It wasn't the whole truth, but it was as much truth as I dared speak in that room. The board deliberated for 2 hours. When they returned, the chairman's expression was unreadable. After careful consideration, we find insufficient evidence of security compromise or conduct violations. Ms. Robinson will be cleared of all charges. Relief flooded through me like warm water. Kylie's shoulders sagged slightly, the first crack in her composed facade. But the chairman wasn't finished. However, to avoid future questions about impartiality, Ms. Robinson will be reassigned to the European Bureau, effective next month. The words hit like physical blows. Cleared of wrongdoing but still punished, still separated, still forced to choose between professional survival and personal happiness. After everyone filed out, Kylie and I found ourselves alone in the empty conference room. The afternoon sun slanted through blinds, casting familiar shadows across unfamiliar circumstances. You saved my career, she said quietly. They're still taking you away. European assignment isn't punishment. It's actually a promotion. In Brussels? Brussels. 4,000 miles away. Different time zones, different languages, different life entirely. I moved closer, close enough to see the exhaustion around her eyes. What happens now? I don't know. Without thinking, I reached up and touched her face, thumb tracing the line of her cheek. She leaned into the contact like she was drawing strength from it. I can't lose you, I whispered. You won't. And then she was kissing me, right there in the diplomatic conference room where her career had just been decided. It was desperate and reckless and perfect, tasting of relief and fear and love that refused to be contained by bureaucratic decisions. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against mine. We'll figure this out, she said. Somehow. But figuring it out would require choices neither of us was ready to make. 6 months had passed since the hearing. Kylie's departure for Brussels left a void that no amount of work could fill. We tried maintaining contact through encrypted calls and carefully worded emails, but the distance felt insurmountable. Time zones became our enemy, turning conversations into disjointed fragments scattered across days. Then, everything changed again. "They want to make you VP of International Development," Leo announced, bursting into my office with characteristic lack of ceremony. I looked up from quarterly reports that had been swimming before my eyes. "What?" "Big promotion. Corner office, 6-figure raise, full control over European expansion projects." My heart stopped. "European?" "Brussels, specifically. They want someone to oversee the new EU compliance initiatives." His grin faltered as he read my expression. "This is good news, Cass. Why do you look like I just told you someone died?" Because accepting meant admitting what I'd been trying to deny for months. That professional advancement meant nothing without someone to share it with. That success felt hollow when the person who mattered most was thousands of miles away. "I need to think about it." "Think about what?" "It's everything you've worked for." But was it? Had I really worked this hard just to climb corporate ladders, or had I been running from something deeper all along? That night, I called Kylie using our secure connection. Her voice sounded tired when she answered, and I could hear the bustle of Brussels evening traffic in the background. "They offered me VP," I said without preamble. "Cassandra, that's incredible. Congratulations." "In Brussels." The silence stretched across 4,000 miles of fiber optic cable. "Oh," she said finally. "What do you think?" "I think you should take whatever opportunity serves your career best. Always the diplomat, even with me." But I could hear something underneath the careful words, a longing that matched my own. "That's not what I'm asking." Another pause. "What are you asking?" "I'm asking if you miss me, if you think about us, if any of this means enough to take risks for." Her breath caught audibly. "You know I do." "Then, help me decide. I can't make this choice for you. I'm not asking you to make it. I'm asking you to make it with me." 3 weeks later, Shane Campbell called my office directly. His voice was as cold as ever, but something had shifted in his tone. "Ms. Campbell, I understand you're considering the Brussels position." "That's correct. Before you decide, there's something you should know about Ms. Robinson's situation here." My stomach dropped. "What kind of situation?" "She submitted a resignation letter. Effective end of month." The words hit like a physical blow. "Why?" "Personal reasons," according to her statement. Though I suspect professional dissatisfaction plays a role. After he hung up, I stared at the phone for 10 minutes before calling Kylie's number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again every hour for the rest of the day. Nothing. Finally, at midnight Brussels time, she called back. "You resigned?" I said without greeting. "Shane told you." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd try to talk me out of it." "Damn right I would. You've worked your entire career to get where you are." "Have I? Or have I worked my entire career to become someone I don't recognize?" The exhaustion in her voice broke my heart. This was my fault. The investigation, the reassignment, the impossible choices she'd been forced to make. "What will you do?" "Private sector consulting. International trade law. Several firms have made offers." "Where?" "Wherever I want." That's the beauty of freelance consulting. The implications hung between us like a bridge neither dared cross. "Kylie. I love you, Cassandra. I've spent 6 months trying to pretend that leaving you behind was acceptable, but it's not. Nothing about this life makes sense without you in it." My throat constricted. "I love you too. So what do we do about it?" I looked around my office, at the diplomas and awards and evidence of career success that suddenly felt meaningless. Outside my window, torrents sprawled toward the ocean, beautiful and limiting. "We stop hiding," I said. "What does that mean?" "I'm taking the VP position, not because it's a promotion, but because it means Brussels, because it means being where you are." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." The next morning, I walked into my boss's office and accepted the Brussels position, made it official with signatures and handshakes and promises about quarterly projections. Leo found me cleaning out my desk that afternoon. "So you're really doing this," he said, settling into the chair across from me. I'm really doing this. For her? I considered lying, offering some professional justification that would preserve dignity, but I was tired of lies. Yes. He nodded slowly. Good. You've been half alive since she left. Time to fix that. My last week in Torrance passed in a blur of exit interviews and farewell dinners. But the only goodbye that mattered happened on a secure call to Brussels, where Kylie's voice carried hope for the first time in months. 3 weeks, I told her. 3 weeks, she repeated. And then? And then we figure out how to build something real. Something that doesn't require hiding. Something worth the risk. When we kissed goodbye through the phone connection, it tasted like promises and new beginnings. 18 months later, the Torrance beach stretched golden in the afternoon sun, waves rolling against shore with familiar rhythm. I'd forgotten how Pacific sunsets painted the sky in impossible colors, how the salt air felt against skin that had grown accustomed to Brussels' dampness. Nervous? Kylie asked, adjusting the simple white dress that made her look radiant. Terrified, I admitted, smoothing my own navy blue dress. But the good kind of terrified. We'd returned to California for this moment, to the place where everything started in that dusty antique market. The vintage diplomatic briefcase sat on a small table beside us, filled now with wildflowers instead of forgotten documents. Leo approached first, grinning broadly as he wrapped me in a fierce hug. About damn time you two made this official. Behind him came Shane Campbell, looking uncomfortable but determined. His presence surprised me more than anyone's. Ms. Robinson, he said formally, extending his hand to Kylie. I owe you an apology. Shane, you don't need to. I do. I let prejudice cloud my judgment about your capabilities. Your private consulting work has been exemplary. Kylie accepted his handshake graciously. The man who'd nearly destroyed her career had become an unlikely ally over the past year, referring clients to her independent practice and advocating for her expertise in diplomatic circles. Even Leah Robinson had arrived, her earlier antagonism replaced by professional respect, earned through Kylie's success outside traditional diplomatic structures. You two make more sense than I wanted to admit, she said with surprising warmth. Our chosen family gathered in the small circle we'd created on the sand. Not blood relatives who might judge or disapprove, but friends who'd witnessed our journey from secret relationship to open commitment. The officiant was a retired judge Leo had found, a woman whose kind eyes and gentle manner made the ceremony feel intimate rather than legal. Marriage is about choosing each other daily, she began, about building something stronger than individual ambitions or fears. Kylie's hands were steady as she took mine, blue eyes holding my gaze with complete focus. I spent years hiding who I was, she said, voice carrying across the beach. With you, I learned that authenticity isn't weakness but strength. You taught me that love worth having is love worth fighting for. My own vows felt inadequate for everything we'd survived together. You changed my definition of courage, I said. I thought bravery meant professional success and career advancement. You showed me it means staying true to yourself even when the world demands conformity. When the judge pronounced us married, Kylie's kiss tasted like salt water and promises kept. Around us, our small family cheered and laughed, waves providing musical accompaniment to this perfect moment. Later, as sunset painted the sky orange and pink, we walked alone along the water's edge. The reception would continue without us for a while. Right now, we needed these quiet minutes to absorb what we'd accomplished. Mrs. Robinson Campbell, Kylie said, testing out the hyphenated name we'd chosen. Mrs. Campbell Robinson, I replied, making her laugh. We'll figure out the details. We always do. My consulting practice had thrived in Brussels, working with Kylie's international trade expertise to build something neither could have achieved alone. The professional partnership enhanced rather than complicated our personal relationship, each success shared and celebrated together. Remember what you said about that briefcase? I asked, pointing to where it sat among our wedding decorations. About valuable things coming to those brave enough to fight for them? I was talking about you, not the briefcase. I know. She stopped walking and pulled me close, my arms circling her waist as ocean wind played through her hair. No more hiding, she whispered against my lips. No more secrets. Just us. When she kissed me this time, it wasn't desperate or stolen or careful. It was confident and joyful and completely free, the kiss of two women who'd fought for the right to love openly and won. Behind us, Leo's voice carried across the beach as he regaled wedding guests with embarrassing stories about my romantic obliviousness before Kylie. Shane and Leo were deep in conversation about international policy, their professional rivalry transformed into collaborative respect. But all of that felt secondary to this moment, this woman in my arms, this life we'd built despite every obstacle. "Come on," Kylie said eventually, taking my hand. "Our guests are probably wondering where we disappeared to. Let them wonder a little longer." She smiled and kissed me again, quick and sweet. "I love you, Cassandra Campbell Robinson." "I love you too, Kylie Robinson Campbell." Hand in hand, we walked back toward the lights and laughter of our celebration, toward the friends who'd supported us, toward the life we'd finally stopped hiding. The diplomatic briefcase caught my eye one last time, weathered leather gleaming in the fading light. Sometimes the most valuable things really did come to those brave enough to fight for them.